Alright, so this video is just going to show why it's difficult to install a full-length recoil guide rod into a slide that has a Tokyo Marui 1911 styled hop-up chamber that has this nub. This nub is traditionally used with Tokyo Marui 1911s that have this short spring guide base. It's there on purpose to, there's a little hole at the bottom here. This nub inserts in there and it helps to keep it stabilized during use, as well as aids in installation. So normally what you would do is you would install a spring with the guide rod or the guide base and just slide that over. So it just helps to hold it there. The high kappa hop-up chamber doesn't have that nub, so what would happen is you would have to put this guide base, the spring guide base in place, rest it against there, and hope that it doesn't slide off or fling away. You'd probably need to, have your hand hold it in place while you attach it back onto the slide. The other issue is once you have it installed, as you use the gun, without that nub holding it in place, it does have a potential to move around and rattle around inside. While that's not a really huge concern, the frame inside will hold it in place. The issue is it can increase wear. Over time, it can also cause it to loosen up. And if it's out of place, what happens during cycling is that the nub or the end of the spring guide will strike. It'll strike the inside of this the plug here if it's not aligned well all the time, and again that will increase wear. The spring will rub against the ends here. It'll wear down the end here as well, and this again the spring will rub down and wear down the inside of the plug. So that's why with the short spring guide bases, it's recommended to stay with these 1911 style hop-up chambers that have this nub. Now, if you're upgrading to the full-length recoil rod, which is something like we have here, the plug is again a hollow one that allows this to fit all the way through. The 1911 one is plugged, so just to prevent dirt from getting in there. So I'll show you why this kind of 1911 hop-up chamber doesn't work well with a full-length recoil guide rod, and it's quite simple to see. Normally what you would do is you would have the spring guide rod and the bushing. For airsoft you can just do it by hand. With real ones you would have a tool that you would slide in place there to hold it, to keep it held back. You have to insert it this way, and I don't know if you can see, but there's not enough room to clear this nub, even without going through all that. And see, I'm stuck here now. There we go. Even without this spring, I can just show you the distance that you have to work with. You have this much space to slide the barrel or the recoil rod all the way into the guide, into the housing. You have the bushing that just fits barely in there, and you still have to get the end of the recoil rod base to slip past the nub so that it can insert in there. The only way you can do this is with recoil rods like this Illusion Kinetics one that can be separated. Some are separated here, some are separated here, but those ones are the ones that separate from here are extremely difficult to work with. So with the Illusion Kinetics one that separates here, has these two holes. You need to find something that fits in to both ends. Actually, this one might be loose enough to do by hand. Oh, there we go. So you would need to do it in multiple parts. It's not so much quick takedown anymore. You're dealing with a bunch of different parts. So you would install this sort of like a 1911 one now. Put this part in first. And then you would, like a 1911, spring, and then the base. And then to install this, you gotta go from the front. You gotta wiggle it past, you gotta sort of screw it down here. But wait, you're not done yet. You gotta tighten this. If you don't tighten this, what happens is as you shoot it, the vibrations from the recoil will cause it to loosen up over time, and it'll start to stick out the front. And if you're not careful, it can actually come completely loose and just fly out the front, or even fall out your holster, and you'll never even know it's gone till you do your next quick takedown and realize it's gone. So again, one tool in one of these holes, another tool in the second hole, and then you counter turn it just to tighten it, or even better if you can use some Loctite to put it on that thread. And then with that set up, then you'll have a full length recoil rod set up. But again, if you ever have to take this down, you can't just, so traditionally you would pull this back on say a high kappa. You could just compress it with your fingers and lift out. But oh, look what happens, we're stuck now. This is bumped up against the nub, and there's literally no side-to-side room to squeeze that past. Oh, I might be able to... Never mind, I got hopeful for a moment. Now I gotta try and get this back. Yeah. Anyways, this is a really poor solution for that. The only real solution that you can do a full length recoil rod with easy quick takedowns is with a high kappa hop-up chamber that does not have this nub. The only difference between the 1911 hop-up chamber and the high kappa chamber is this nub. And that allows you to easily just compress the recoil rod assembly with your hands and just slide it in place, and off you go. But again, with the 1911, it's not that simple. So even just to take it off now, take it apart for a quick takedown, I gotta go through the opposite of what we just did. So loosen that. Hope this doesn't just fly away on me now. This is a heavier spring, so it does have a lot of tension on it. And there we go, got it disassembled. Easy, right? Not really. There you go.